Hey guys, Pelican here, and I'll be showcasing my subclass solo PvP build. If you haven't seen this yet in action, do check out the link in the description and leave a comment if you have any questions. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So as usual, this is the full build. If you wish to just screenshot it for reference, feel free to do so. And for this video, I'll be focusing more on the skill lines and the abilities I choose instead of the gear. But if you have any questions about the gear, you can ask in the comment sections. So let's quickly go through my gear setup. Running 2-piece Bloodspawn, 1-piece Trainee, 5-piece Acuity front bar, 5-piece Rallying Cry back bar, and I'm running the new Mythic. So Bloodspawn is just really standard 2-piece monster for solo PvP. It's very good if you are taking a lot of damage, and it gives you out regen, which with Bloodspawn, your ultimate regen syncs really well with the cooldown of the Acuity set. So usually, like in between Acuity procs, I would have around 120 to 130 ultimate restored. So that brings me pretty much I can use like Onslaught in between Acuity procs, which is very useful. That or Shield Wall. So I think Bloodspawn is perfect for this build because of that. Next up is Acuity front bar. In my opinion, this is the best burst damage set in the game. And one thing that people tend to forget is that this is not only an offense set, this is also a very good defense set, because when Acuity is up, when you're going offense, you tend to be vulnerable, and Acuity will make pretty much all your heals crit as well, so it gives you a lot of healing. So it's a really good defense set as well. Next up is Rallying Cry. No solo PvP build is complete without this. You just backbar this, gives you damage and gives you a lot of crit resistance, which in my opinion is way more important this patch, because everyone's going to be stacking a lot of crit damage with subclassing. And finally, we have the new Mythic, which gives us major force front bar and major protection and minor vitality back bar. The minor berserk isn't really useful because we already get that from jabs, but some people are worried about the minor timidity that it gives you, which solely drains your ultimate, kind of like a reverse minor heroism. But again, with Bloodspawn, it doesn't really matter. In fact, I don't really notice the effect at all. So this is the best Mythic to use in my opinion. But if you do not have the new chapter, you can always stick with Saints and Seducer. So for my armor traits, I'm running 6 Impen and 1 Reinforce. Again, it's a crit meta now. You need all the crit resist you can get. Running all tri-stack glyphs, and I'm running 4 medium, 2 heavy, and 1 light. For my jewelry, I'm running 3 protective. Some people might be wondering why protective, won't I lose a lot of damage? Normally you do, but in this case, because we are running 3 offensive oriented skill lines, you still have a lot of damage, and actually that gives you even more reason to run protective. Otherwise, you'll just be too squishy without these protective pieces. I'm running all magic damage glyphs, the one that gives you mag recovery. For my weapon, front bar, because I'm running Acuity, it makes sense to go Battle Axe. Now, the trait might be a bit surprising. Why am I running Charged and not Nunhone? Especially because my weapon damage in the first place is not very high. So the whole reason I'm running Charged is because of the changes to Biting Jabs and Burning Light. So previously, these two abilities only have a 3% base chance of proccing status effects, but now it is more than tripled, has a 10% chance now. And with the CP passive and the charged ability, each jab, like each individual hit of jabs, will have a 39.5% chance of proccing Sundered. So that adds a lot of damage to your burst. I calculated the average damage increase to be about 9 to 10%. So very, very useful trait. So sometimes you when you jab someone, you might see like 6 or 7 damage numbers pop up. That's because of all the status effects. So charge is definitely the best trait in my opinion to run. For my enchantment, I'm running shock. Shock also gives you also applies minor wound to your enemy, 5% more damage taken, and with the charge trait it has like a 79% chance of applying it, and it also benefits 5% from the storm calling passive that we are running. So for my back bar, I'm running sword and shield, sturdy for my shield, because actually I tend to block quite a bit on this build as well, on top of rolling. And Nunhone with weapon damage on the one hand. So the reason I'm going Nunhone is because honestly Nunhone is the most efficient trait to run on a one hand and shield. Even though this is a defensive bar, Nunhone is still useful because it buffs your vigor, and the buff healing will carry over to your front bar. So that's all for the gear. Okay, now I'll be going through my skill setup. So I'll go through the skill lines that I'm running, their passives, as well as all the actives that I'm using. But before we start, it is important to note that I'm a Warden base class. This is very crucial because although you can go any class you want, well, any of these three classes, Warden, Pla, or Sock, we really want Warden because it allows us to run the Warden class mastery script, which is very important for the way we play this build, and I'll explain more in depth later when we go through this skill. It's also nice to note that all three are offensive skill lines, so you do get a lot of damage just for running these skill lines. So first up, Animal Companions. We're running 3 skills from this: Deep Fissure, Bull Gnatch, Deceptive Predator. Fissure and Gnatch are on the front bar, and Predator is on the back bar. Why I do that is because I want the evasion from Deceptive to be on the bar that I spend most of my time on, my tankier bar. So if you're not comfortable with having Gnatch on the front bar, you can also always swap them around, doesn't matter. So yeah, on top of the evasion, Deceptive Predator is also our snare remover. You can swap this out for Race Against Time, but then you have to put Gnatch on the back bar, which I highly don't recommend because then you have to put something else on the front bar, which is a bit weird, like maybe Hurricane or something. But yeah, I highly recommend Deceptive instead of Race Against Time. I don't really feel like you need the minor force on this build. You already have major force from the Mythic, so it's already a lot of damage. Bull Gnatch, this will give us, this is our source of stem sustain. It also has a nice little snare, purge ability every 5 seconds. Gives us major brutality also, but it's a bit weird because we are also running 2 other skills that give major brutality. You can call that inefficient, but honestly, doesn't really matter at this point. It's also better to have 100% uptime anyway. So the last skill is Deep Fissure. This will be our precast burst. It's AoE. It will apply both breaches. You might be wondering, why is that important? We already have Onslaught, which ignores all resist. A lot of the times you're going to find that there are a lot of people that you don't really need to waste an Onslaught on, so you can just kill them with your normal abilities, and that's when having the breaches really help, because our build, we basically have no pen. This is like base pen for PvP, so yeah, having Fissure is really helpful here. So for the next line, this will be our main DPS line. We are running 2 skills, Biting Jabs and Javelin from here. Now I want to focus more on this line because this line has received some major buffs this patch, both for the active and the passive abilities. So starting with Jabs, it now deals full damage to all enemies, 6 enemies within the area, instead of just doing full damage to one guy. And more importantly, it also they also buffed the status effect chance to 10% instead of 3% now, which I explained earlier. And on top of that, Burning Light also got a buff to the status effect. So this might look like a small change, but it actually makes a huge difference. Our next skill is Binding Javelin. This will be our offensive CC. It cannot be blocked, and the reason I like this skill so much is because it is a bit awkward to break out of. I'm sure you guys know, like some stuns are harder to break free from, such as Revert Bash or Streak. So this is one of them, and being harder to break free of, it makes it much better for securing your kills. You can also run toppling charge, gives you major protection front bar and it's a gap closer. But honestly, I much rather, I tried both and I prefer Javelin. Going to the passives, Piercing Spear received the buff as well. It's now 12% instead of 10. Spear Wall also got a buff, gives you minor berserk, but that's not really important because we already get it from our mythic. Burning Light received a buff, not just for a status effect. It now scales purely off of weapon and or spell damage, so generally that's a damage increase. Balanced Warrior now gives you 6% additional armor as well, which is very useful for our build because we already run very high resist. We have 3 protective and blood spawn, so this syncs really well with our setup. Finally, we have our utility line, but it also gives a lot of damage. Storm Callings. We are running Hurricane and Crit Surge. Hurricane is our armor buff, and it also gives you additional speed, and it does quite a significant amount of damage. In fact, I checked my stats, and actually Hurricane was responsible for securing pretty significant portion of my killing blows, cause the damage over time will go through block and roll, and it hits pretty hard. I've seen it tick for over 3k crits. And one additional note I would like to say is don't run the skin on this. You want your Hurricane to remain blue in color because it will hide your Acuity proc. So that's something to take note of. Crit Surge, I'm primarily using this for the heal over time. It's more of an offensive healing ability because it only procs off of crit damage, but having Hurricane will also let it proc on defense easily, especially if you have a lot of people on you. And it goes really well with Acuity because when you have Acuity up, not only does this pretty much have a guaranteed chance of proccing every time you do damage, but the procs themselves will also crit. The heals themselves will also crit. So it's a lot of offensive healing when you're going on the offense, which helps you stay alive. So I really like this skill. I'm not running Streak. A lot of people find it weird that I would run Storm Calling without Shriek, but honestly, with Major and Minor Expedition, you don't really need Shriek on this build. So for the passives, Capacitator received quite a nice buff. It now gives you both regens, and it's a flat regen. Energize and Amplitude remain the same, but these two abilities are heavily responsible for your damage on this class. Amplitude is especially nice because you're running an Execute. So these two skills go really nice with each other. And Expert Mage only applies on our back bar, but gives you a nice weapon damage boost for more healing as well. So that's all for the class skills, and I'll be going through the other skills now. So for my front bar, I'm running Executioner. This might be surprising to some people. Normally you don't see Templars running Execute with jabs. Normally they just run dual wheel, and jabs will function as an execute as well. But I really like Executioner because the problem with jabs is that because it's a channel, it takes probably like half a second for it to really do any damage, and when you're trying to execute someone, that half a second can make a whole lot of difference. Like they could have, broke free and started blocking, they could have healed themselves, or they could have gotten healed from another person, or you could have gotten CC'd before the jabs channel can kill them. So having an execute goes really well with this, especially with the Amplitude passive. So when you're low HP, that's when your jabs will do even less damage because of the Amplitude passive. So Executioner, really good for this. Animation cancels really nicely as well. And jabs into Executioner is a really smooth and really fast, really satisfying combo to use. So I highly recommend running this, but if you do not want to, you can always run Wrecking Blow instead for Major Berserk, or you can run Major's Contingency for another precast burst. Can put Minor Force on it as well. For our ultimate, we are running Onslaught. The reason for this Onslaught is really nice with Javelin because Javelin is unblockable, but it tends to miss sometimes if you are fighting someone who's a bit more evasive. But I don't really found a problem with that from my gameplay. So just use Javelin well, and Onslaught it's not hard to land, honestly. But if you don't like it, you can always run Dawnbreaker, or you can run Crescent Sweep, which is also a very strong ultimate. Next up, I'm running, okay, for my back bar, the other 3 skills I'm running Vigor. This is your main heal, gives you minor resolve, nothing much to say. Healing Soul, okay, this is the one I want to focus on. This is your burst heal, and it's the reason why we are running Warden as our base class. Now, the Warden class mastery script is honestly one of the most broken abilities in the game. I used to use it offensively, but now it functions very well as a defensive skill. So basically, every time this procs, you leave a huge AoE on the ground. This AoE will appear as a giant red circle on your enemy's screen, which is very intimidating. If you're taking a lot of pressure, you cast this procs on you. Your enemy sees a huge red circle on the ground. They're going to avoid it. They're going to dodge. They're going to break off the offense on you. So it is really really good for taking off pressure, and if they don't, they get stunned, and you also snares them by 70%. So if you have a lot of people chasing you, this will greatly slow them down. So if you watch my gameplay, you will notice that I make heavy use of this ability when fighting multiple people. So highly recommend going Warden for this, but if you do not have a Warden, you can always run another script. You can personally, I would do Druid's Resurgence, which gives you more mag and stem sustain. But yeah, go Warden if you can. And I'm also putting the Major Vitality script on it for more healing. Actually, you have a lot of healing on this build. You have minor Vitality also from the Mythic, and then you have your CP and Major Vitality, so there's a lot of healing. Okay, for my ultimate, I'm running Spell Wall. Previously, I used to run Temporal Guard for minor protection back bar, but I feel like that's not really necessary because jabs also give you minor protection, so it's not always 100% uptime without a Temporal Guard. But I didn't really feel a need for it. Plus, I feel that Sword and Bird out is very good for 1vx now. Because of subclassing, a lot of people are running the meta skill lines, which are like Assassination and stuff. So Assassination, like a lot of people are running Spectral Bow now, so Spell Wall will reflect Spectral Bow, and the funny thing is the reflected Spectral Bow can heal you as well. So it's as though as you casted the skill themselves. Like I have people one-shotting themselves for like 12k crits using their own Spectral Bow. And it's also nice to note that because you have Acuity, when you use this on the offense, all your reflected spells are going to crit as well. So this is a very useful skill line. Sorry, a very useful ultimate to run, and I really like it over Temporal Guard. So that's all for the skills, and I'll be going through the other stuff now. For my Mundus, I'm running the Shadow. For my food, I'm running Smoked Bear Haunch. For my potions, I have 2 potions that I use. My main potion is the Improve Crits, Stem Improve Crits. So you might be wondering, why am I running Major Savagery if I already have Acuity? So when your Acuity is down, your crit chance is very low, and the main problem with that is that you will be lacking a lot of heals, especially because we are relying on crit search for heals. So you really need Major Savagery on this build. And on top of that, it's quite annoying to proc Rallying Cry. Even with Major Savagery, sometimes you get long periods of time where this doesn't proc and it gets annoying. So it's even worse without Major Savagery. So that's why I run these pods. You don't really need tripods. Max Sustain is perfectly fine. The other pod I'm using is Detect Pods. This is basically the same as the other pod the Immove pods that I'm using, except the Immove is now replaced by Detection. So there's a lot of people running Cloak nowadays as well, so this is very useful for that. And for my race, I'm in Imperial. At the start, I was Breton for this. I thought the spell resist for Breton was very useful, but in the end, I swapped to Imperial and it is way better. Gives you a lot of max stem. So when I was running Breton, I only had like 20k or 21k stem, and I found myself running out of stem very easily. Imperial is really nice to make up for that. Alternative race, I would run Khajiit. I think Khajiit is really nice for this as well, for the crit damage. But honestly, any race is fine, but I still think Imperial is the best. Alright, that's all for the main build. Now I'll be going through my CP setup. So for my blue CP, I'm running a bit of a tank setup. I have Focus Mending, Ironclad, Duelist Rebuff, and Fighting Finesse. So 3 defensive lines. Focus Mending is really nice because all your heals are single target on this build. Ironclad and Duelist Rebuff, this is for defense. And Fighting Finesse, this will give us healing as well as crit damage. Goes nice with Acuity. Now, sometimes I like to swap out maybe Duelist Rebuff for Cleansing Revival. Cleansing Revival is really nice. Sometimes if you are fighting people running stuff like Gerald Mountains, which is very annoying to deal with. But personally, I don't really like this skill, this CP, because you realize that it only procs when your health is low. And when it procs, because it removes all your harmful effects, it also means that your Pain's Refuge is completely gone when you are below 25%. So when that happens, you tend to get one-shotted immediately. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It removes Geralds, which is useful, but at the same time, the moment it procs, you are very prone to dying because all your Pain's Refuge is gone. So yeah, personally, I still prefer running Duelist Rebuff in general. For my red CP, besides Pain's Refuge, I'm running Survival Instincts, Sustained by Suffering, Fortified. These 3 are just pretty standard for solo PvP. The 4th one, I'm running Fortified for more armor. Personally, I feel like I need more armor on this build. My regen is fine, so I don't run this, but this is a flex spot. Feel free to swap it out for anything. You can run Fortified, you can run Rejuvenation, you can run Celerity. Yeah, anything works, but I prefer Fortified. So that's all for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoyed this patch as well. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or any suggestions on what builds you might want to see from me. And I'm also thinking of doing some tier lists or short video on the add-ons that I run. I have a lot of requests for that. But yeah, feel free to leave suggestions, and I'll see you in the next video.